Okay, now you're on.
Testing, testing, yeah, I'm on now. Hello, my partners. Hello. I'm like so happy to see you all because I just actually did public testimony in front of the city council. And public testimony is hard. I always cry. I did not cry there. I might cry here, so we'll see how it goes. I'm already crying, but it just coming in here and seeing you all is like, whew, home. It feels very relaxing, even though I'm crying already. So I just thank you all for being here. Thank you, Jackie, for the motivation. It was a good comment. So my testimony was at the hearing on the oversight of special education reform in the city. I had to testify on behalf of my council, the Citywide Council on Special Education, and I'll read some of those points, but I also drafted my own statement, which I read afterwards, because our council position is our council position, but I think always speaking as a parent or as a self-advocate and hearing those stories are the most important and the most passionate. So I thanked the City Council for having me. My name is Caraballo. I am a parent, an advocate, a member of the Citywide Council on Special Education. The role of the CCSE is to advise and comment on educational policy for all New York City students who receive special education services. Since the DOE began rolling out the reform with Phase 1 and implementing citywide in September 2012, the CC has heard from hundreds of parents from all 5 boroughs. We far too often have listened to parents speak about their personal struggles and experiences navigating the special education process in relation to the reform initiative and the emotional and educational tolls both their children and families have endured as a result of the DOE's policies. While we fully support the goal of providing students with disabilities access to the full range of supports and services and the most inclusive environments, we are concerned about the following troubling patterns we have seen. Inability to resolve problems at their local school, for example within their IEP team, or with the network who supports their child's school. Failure to provide academic and behavioral supports and services, and accessible curriculum for students based upon individual instructional needs. IEP teams not authorizing intensive or specialized support or settings because school-based IEP teams no longer have the authority to make decisions anymore, or because the school cannot provide such services or placement. Students with IEPs in grades K, 1, 6, 7, 9, and 10 are not having full access to all schools despite reform initiative. Students not receiving all related services that are mandated on their IEPs on time, or if at all, because schools say they do not have resources to provide the service, or that the DOE does not have an approved provider. Failure to issue paperwork in a timely manner to restore delayed services in students, such as related service authorizations to provide OT. We have reports that CSIS, more often than not, does not work. Parents leave meetings without copies of their IEPs, cannot access this system, and there are no plans to give parents access to this system. As a result of these concerns, we are asking the DOE to be held accountable to the children and parents of New York City by ensuring that the DOE identify current or additional monies to develop and implement academic and behavioral supports and services in all schools, provide more professional development on access and inclusion for all school administrators, develop and implement additional accountability metrics to better monitor to the extent in which individual schools are programmatically, instructionally, and physically accessible to all students. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Please do not hesitate to contact us to further discuss these issues. Sincerely, the members of the Citywide Council on Special Education. And I know I have 3 minutes, but additionally, I would like to speak briefly as an individual parent of a child in pre-K turning 5, an advocate, and an elected public official, if I may. One of the biggest challenges for special education in this city is communication. We have a saying in the disability sector, it is our guiding principle, our rallying cry. That is, nothing about me without me. Meaning that policy should not be implemented over people without their input, especially our citizens with special needs. The Public Advocate's Office, in cooperation with the DOE, issued this report this year that measured the preliminary success of special education reform by anonymously surveying principals. only half of those principals responded. This was a good start, but we know that principals, whether for good or not so good, wield power over teachers, parents, and students like lords over fiefdoms. To get a real measure of the success of special education reform, we need anonymous surveys of parents, students, and our teachers, special and general educators who are the foot soldiers doing the real hands-on work on the ground. Like our soldiers overseas, the success of our mission relies heavily on these teachers in the classroom, which in turn is based on the training, resources, and support available to them. Without this measure, we're never going to know what's really happening on the ground. I wrote a letter earlier this month to the administrators at the Division of Students with Disabilities to commend the efforts of Ms. Sacha Inglis and Ms. Thomasina Howe in the District 75 office. These women are offering beneficial training to parents of students with disabilities in District 75, and it is my belief that this work should be modeled in similar offerings to all parents of students with IEPs. The DOE has done this citywide with parent academies. They should create similar concentrated outreach to all IEP families modeled after these D75 workshops. I sincerely commend the Division of Students with Disabilities who have taken on an almost insurmountable task and laud them for their efforts and their presence at public meetings. They are accessible and available, but there still seems to be a big disconnect between the vision put forth from the top levels of the division and what's actually happening in our CSE meetings and in our schools, including a lack of diverse programming, small class sizes, and adequate staff. There was mention earlier of a reduction in the number of related service authorizations, and it kind of went under the radar. Why is that happening? Are children just not getting services anymore? We know that the Office of Pupil Transportation resubmitted the bids for our busing, and that was for the savings. We also know that last year there was $100 million placed for principals to educate their staff on the Common Core. Where is this money going, and how much of it is going to our students with special needs? We need more parent outreach in the form of training and workshops, and we also need to implement an anonymous survey and reporting system for our teachers and parents to hold our principals and schools accountable for their special education students. This system is only as good as its individual service to the individual child, and in recent weeks, we lost one of our children. Conversations surrounding Avante Okendo have focused, as they should be, on the search. But at the end of the day, this was a systemic failure that began in the New York City Department of Education school. And that is one measure of where we are with special education in this city. I want to reiterate, these comments do not reflect the opinions of the Citywide Council for Special Education. They are my own personal individual reflections, and I thank you for your time and consideration.